welcome back.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you. Thank you for joining us today. I know you've heard me say this before. You'll probably hear me say it again, but I have to say it today. Montana is open for business. Just yesterday, I cut the ribbon on a brand new state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Great Falls. This new facility is over 100,000 square feet and will create about 50 new jobs in Cascade County. It's the latest investment from a growing Montana business that manufactures steel for most of the western states. ProTech Steel has locations in Billings, Helena, and now Great Falls, and is one of many of the Montana businesses that have realized the increased potential from our business-friendly environment, unmatched quality of life, strong work ethic, and our hardworking, talented workforce here in Montana. The reality is that hardworking Montanans are feeling the effects of the nationwide affordability crisis, and the folks I met yesterday at ProTech Steel are no different. I heard from nearly 50 employees at the ribbon cutting. It was kind of interesting. The ribbon, rather than being fabric, was steel, and I had to use tin snips to cut it. They were eager for relief from rising prices and the higher cost of living. They're eager for tax relief because they've been struggling with higher prices, from groceries to gas, housing to taxes. Our Montana families continue to struggle to make ends meet. That's why we need permanent, long-term, lasting tax relief to reduce the burden of tax on work, to reduce the burden of tax on property, and to help Montanans keep more of what they work so hard to earn. Just last week, I was pleased to have Grover Norquist join us here from Americans for Tax Reform. He praised our progress in Montana to make taxes simpler, flatter, and lower. We've gone from 7 tax rates to just 2. This simplified the tax code and it flattened our tax brackets. We've lowered the rate that most Montana taxpayers pay from 6.9% to 5.9%, but there's more we can and should do. And Grover endorsed our proposal to get it done with the largest income tax reduction in state history. As of last year, our state income tax rate remains here in Montana the highest rate in the Rocky Mountain West. We must continue reducing the tax that most Montanans pay, and we must continue to flatten our taxes. That's why our proposal lowers the rate most Montanans pay from 5.9% to 4.9%. Our proposed tax cut package provides permanent relief to Montanans at every income level, to workers, small business owners, and everyone who calls this place home. And we should keep this long-term vision in focus. Ultimately, my goal is to enact a permanently low, flat income tax rate here in Montana. If we can get the rate most people pay to 4.9%, we're well on our way to a flat tax. And yes, this is ambitious, but Montana taxpayers expect us to think big and to deliver results, and we must. Our proposals don't stop there. As you know, my top priority for this legislative session is reducing the burden of rising property taxes on Montana homeowners, small businesses, and renters. We must get this done this year, not later. Property taxes are one of the top issues I hear about when I meet with folks across the state. Montanans spoke loud and clear. They want and need us to deliver permanent, meaningful relief to Montanans where they live. Montanans are counting us to get this done this year, and we should. And we've outlined our agenda. I've been clear about our view. We shouldn't pay for a property tax cut for folks who, for example, live in California and happen to get here a couple times a year to ski. We shouldn't subsidize local spending with a state bailout using our general fund and Montana's income taxes to offset property taxes. Last week, Grover Norquist likened using other sources of state revenue to backfill county spending as a tapeworm. A tapeworm. I don't think we should be ingesting a tapeworm. We should be in the business of doubling down on our successful pro-jobs, pro-family policies. We should be in the business of ensuring Montanans keep more of what they work so hard to earn. And we should be in the business of helping Montanans recover from the Biden's nationwide affordability crisis. Montanans, like the folks I met with at ProTech yesterday, are counting on us. And when I spoke with them, I heard a new argument about property tax relief. They think the homestead rate cut proposal is good for business because it helps directly their workers. Businesses like ProTech can't do what they do without reliable, trained, hardworking employees. If their income taxes are too high, they may move to keep more of their money in their pocket. If their property taxes are too high, they may choose to sell their home and move out of the area and leave their job. By reducing the income tax, hardworking Montanans will keep more of what they work so hard to earn. By eventually getting to a flat tax, not only will they have more take-home pay, they'll have greater certainty into the future. By bringing down property taxes on where workers live, they'll be more secure in their homes. By doing these things, Montanans won't feel like they have to leave home or a job they love because of high taxes. Last week, the House Tax Committee approved the homestead rate cut with bipartisan support. And I understand it will hit the floor of the House of Representatives later today. I want to thank the legislators in the House for prioritizing common sense property tax relief and for moving it as quickly as possible. While we recognize there's more work to do, our pro-jobs, pro-family policies are working. The proof is in the pudding. More Montanans are working today than ever before. We've had record job and business creation. Unemployment remains near historic lows. Wages in Montana have grown at the second fastest rate in the country over the last 4 years. And we're unleashing an innovative spirit that is woven in our state fabric, in our small businesses, in our workers, in our communities. But we didn't just luck into this success. It's thanks to the resiliency of Montanans who are surviving the Biden-caused national affordability crisis. And it's thanks to our pro-jobs, pro-family agenda. With hardworking Montanans in mind, we must continue building on this agenda so more families can thrive, prosper, and achieve the American dream right here in Montana. It's not a time to slow down. In fact, it's time to double down on these policies that are working and make the American dream more attainable for every Montanan. And with that, I'd be happy to open it up for some questions. Yes?
Governor, we heard a bill today and one yesterday looking at income taxes, and both of them would expand the lower brackets range as opposed to just cutting from the top. Is that something that you would support if it comes across your desk ultimately?
Well, I'll consider any bill that gets to my desk. I've been very clear, though. I think we need to bring this top rate down because that's the rate most Montanans pay. And ultimately, that's what we have to do if we're going to get to a flat tax.
To follow up on that, so that those bills, a couple different versions, they would raise the threshold so more Montanans end up paying the lower income tax rate. Opponents for those argued that that would be a way to focus tax relief more on middle income taxpayers instead of high income taxpayers. They say that'd be fair. What do you think of that argument?
Well, we put our proposal forward. We propose bringing the top rate down and expanding the earned income tax credit. We haven't done the full analysis on those other proposals, but ours is, we believe, the only one that reduces taxes for Montanans at every income level. It's a combination of the earned income tax credit and lowering the top rate. But ultimately, there's different routes to get to a flat tax at a lower rate, and we'll consider those other bills if they get to my desk.
If I can follow up, why do you think it's better to lower taxes for Montanans at every income level as opposed to focusing relief on middle income taxpayers?
Well, our earned, under the current tax structure. Once you get to $20,000 a year in income, which is virtually everybody who's working full time, you're at that top bracket. So by lowering the top bracket, you're lowering the rate for almost every Montanan. Combine that with the earned income tax credit, which is particularly targeted at the low income folks, and we take care of everybody. But ultimately, we want to get to a flat tax that everybody pays the same rate.
I guess, following up on Eric's question.
I'm sorry you didn't join me in the field yesterday.
I know, I can only make it out of the Capitol so many days. We gotta get these legislators to hurry up. I am curious, this morning, in the hearing for Senator Yakowicz's bill, he talked about, yes, they want to help low income as well, but they don't feel like they need to cut the top earners in Montana. Why do you feel like that's still necessary in your proposal?
Well, we have the highest income tax rate in the Rocky Mountain region. Even after the work we've done to bring it from 6.9 to 5.9, we're one of two states that has the highest rate in the Rocky Mountain region, and it makes a difference. I heard it yesterday from the workers at Protect Steel. Anybody who makes more than $20,000 a year today in Montana is paying the highest income tax rate in the Rocky Mountain region, and we need to fix it. That's why bringing that top rate down is so important. Yes?
On the property tax task force package of bills, yesterday or this week we heard some opposition from firefighters and police in particular on the sunsetted mills and the higher threshold to get them passed. Just wondering if you are fully supportive of everything that's coming out of that task force package, and if you have any thoughts on, kind of the public safety people coming in opposition to that.
Yeah, so it's a really good question because clearly we have to fund law enforcement and emergency response, and it's done with property taxes at the local level. I had a chance to meet with the firefighters this week. We talked specifically about this issue, and we stand by our proposal, which would lower the rate that Montanans pay on their home. It would extend to small businesses and to landlords that rent on a long-term basis, and indirectly that way we take care of renters. There is some fear-mongering going on, and if a county commissioner says the first thing they're going to cut is emergency response services, we probably need a new county commissioner. This is a question of priorities at a local level. We've seen runaway spending, and it's not every county and every city that exhibits this bad behavior, but the reality is we've seen inflation over the last 20 years average 2% a year. Local spending growth has averaged over 6% a year. It's 3 times the rate of inflation. I think we should fully fund our emergency response and law enforcement services. But for any local municipal leader to say that's the first thing we're going to cut, they have their priorities wrong. Shaylee.
I am curious about the inflation and then how local governments have increased. I wonder how population factors into that math and calculation.
Yeah, we can get you the data. This was all presented in front of the property task force. This was some of the inputs they took to look, and there's a bunch of proposals there. The homestead rate reduction is just one of the recommendations. There are other recommendations which will constrain local spending in a ways that's more fair. The current system we have, unfortunately, disadvantages our rural counties that don't have a lot of new growth, because the current law says local spending growth is limited to half the rate of inflation, but it excludes newly appraised property, which means Gallatin, Flathead, Missoula, where there's a lot of new growth, there's virtually no cap on new spending. And a community like, not to pick on anybody, but Petroleum County, where we don't have as much new construction, literally has to constrain their budget to half the rate of inflation, which isn't fair either. So I think we can do better and put some caps on local spending that are uniform across all the communities. Yes?
In terms of that cap on local spending, one of the concerns I've heard from local government folks is that they worry in high growth areas, the proposal that's coming in would prevent them from adding the services they need to serve that new growth.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about that?
Well, government's job is to provide these essential services. We need to listen to everybody at the table. We had a proposal last session that would have, that we had tentative, everyone's voice was incorporated. It ended up not making it to my desk. That was Senate Bill 511. There's a version of that bill making its way through this legislative session. I would encourage local officials to express their opinions. I think everyone's voice needs to be heard, but the people of Montana have spoken. Property taxes are too high, and what's driving that is local spending. We need to deal with that core issue. Do we have a question online?
Not this time.
Okay, they're quiet. Yes,
Hey,
Seymour.
I'm going to veer off taxes really quick, but I think we're going to hear bills about partisan judicial elections on local floors coming up soon. I think the main distinction between the two proposals, and I think there's three, but it's just kind of a shall versus a may, requiring judicial candidates to pick a party versus kind of allowing them to do so. I'm wondering if you're backing into one of those.
I'll wait to see those bills get to my desk. I was pretty clear in the State of the State that I think we need some judicial, the way we select judges needs to change so that the people of Montana know who they're voting for. Right now, it's kind of a mystery, and we don't always get what we want.
Do you think making it just sort of voluntary would still be able to get at that, or do you think maybe judges might fall back into this nonpartisan status they take?
Well, I respect the legislative process and making sure the voices get heard, and I'm sure there'll be some concerns raised. I know other states, I think there's 6 other states that have gone to partisan judicial elections. I think we could do it here too. Shaylee.
I have another kind of weird topic. So we saw a bill yesterday, constitutionally defined personhood, which I realize would circumvent. Is that correct? It doesn't need your signature, a constitutional proposal. I can't remember.
If it's a CI, it would go directly to the ballot.
Right, exactly. Sorry.
And so it
Thank you.
wouldn't come to me.
Right, but I do think there are a couple other proposals that aim to find some more regulations for abortion. Given the passage of CI 128, but your support for proposals that restrict abortion, where are you falling on these proposals?
Well, I think all life is precious and it should be protected. And we'll continue to find ways to do that.
Quick follow-up, do you have any thoughts on Representative Spriner's bill that to require that child support start at conception for fathers?
We haven't looked at it. These bills go through circuitous routes before they get to me, and not every bill makes it out of committee or out of the House or to my desk. So we could be here all day talking about all these bills. Jonathan, did you have a question?
Governor, I was curious if you were expecting a bill, when you think there might be a bill with your income tax proposal. Obviously, some of these other income tax proposals are already getting hearings, and when you expect you might see your proposal?
Soon. I'm excited that we're having a hearing in the House today on the property tax bill. I'm hopeful it'll get to the Senate sometime next week. That's the one that really has the short fuse on it, because for the Department of Revenue to implement property tax relief this year, we need that bill soon. I had kind of laid out a February 15th date for us to have enough time. We probably have a little wiggle room in that, but not too much, because there's a lot of work for the Department of Revenue to make sure Montanans get property tax relief this year.
Would you say that you're, if we're going to have 3 potentially income tax proposals floating out there, do you think that there's something that could be combined, maybe some of the ideas in each of them, or do you think that you're pretty wedded to the 4.9 that you're proposing?
No, I'll give careful consideration to any bill that makes it to my desk. That being said, I've laid out what I think is important. We need to bring the top rate down, because that's the rate that most Montanans pay. We need to make sure we take care of people at the lowest end of the income level. And anything we do ought to be a step towards a single rate for all Montanans, essentially a flat tax. That's as we heard from Grover Norquist, that's the direction most states are taking. And to be competitive, we need to do the same thing here. Yeah.
There's about 4 bills currently, and there might be more coming, that address the Held decision from December that I know is a huge deal just curious if you've had time to review any of those, and if any of them, catch your eye a little bit more than the others between Senator Galtz, Representative Zolnikoff, and Representative Lear.
Well, in that decision from the Montana Supreme Court, they asked the legislature to clarify this. So I don't have any particular readout on the bills that are kind of going through the process in the legislature, but it's something the court asked us to do, and I would expect some of those would make it to my desk this time. Anything online? Okay, last question.
One more quick question back to the property taxes. I know one of the provisions in the property tax proposal is a cut for folks with long-term rentals. In order for that to affect renters, I feel like there needs to be a certain amount of goodwill among those rental owners to pass that along. Do you feel like that's something we can expect, or how do you hope to address that to make sure those get passed on to rentals?
Well, certainly, if we raise property taxes for landlords, the renters are going to feel it. If we lower it, it makes it a more competitive marketplace. You could arbitrarily, if you were a landlord and you stuck an arbitrarily high rent on an apartment, it might stay vacant. So I think the market forces will help us there. But certainly if we leave their property taxes high, that's not going to benefit renters. Good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.